Good morning. Welcome back to Planet Doug Behind the Scenes for Wednesday, August 30th. It's about 5:30 in the morning. And I am in kind of a new city and in a new hotel. I'm back in the city of Padang. So I came down here originally from Bukit Tinggi, mainly because there's an immigration office here, and it's a Class 1 immigration office, and I needed to extend my tourist visa, and rather than do it in Bukit Tinggi, where I had issues with that immigration office when I went there before, I thought I'd try out a new office. And I think there's a lot, well, I was going to say I think there's more tourism down here, so maybe more foreigners go to the office in Padang. So they're more accustomed to dealing with this. But Bukit Tinggi is a very popular place for foreigners to visit. But I guess maybe there's a more steady stream through Padang because of the Mentawai Islands. I don't think foreigners visit anything else around here, but they do go out to these surfing islands pretty regularly. Anyway, that was the reason I came down here, was to go to the immigration office. And then to my surprise, I really liked it here. The town of Padang had a lot more of interest than I expected, and the area, the scenery along the coast. I haven't gone north of Padang, but south along the coast is really quite beautiful, and that's when I went down to Painan and spent about a week there. And then I left and rode my scooter back to Padang. And I didn't shoot any video of that trip. This at the end of my time in Painan, that's when my credit card got hacked again, and I had to call my bank, and they ended up canceling my credit card, of course. And so I'm suddenly living without a credit card. And I told that whole story, dealing with my bank over the phone from Sumatra was very difficult. Took an entire day to get through to my bank. And then the process of verifying my identity and all the security checks and doing all of that on a phone where the connection is not the greatest. And the entire time I was sitting on pins and needles because I knew the internet was going to cut out at some point. And if it did, of course, it would cut off my phone call. So there I am in the middle of dealing with this problem with this customer service rep from my bank, and we're deep into the security levels as he's trying to verify I am who I am. I ended up having to give him 10 separate pieces of verifiable information and ID before he would even believe that I am me. And of course the irony there is that policy is meant to help me, to protect me from crime, from fraudsters, and yet all these security measures I find end up being so onerous. They end up hurting the person they're trying to protect more than protecting them, because I have security layered on everything, and it doesn't matter. People still get my credit card and start using it. They just do, and I've got so many security layers. I don't even want to go onto the internet much of the time because it's such a hassle of getting through the security measures that I personally set up, right? Because I use a password manager and two-step verification. And every time I go to a new city, all of those systems reset because they can tell that I'm in a new city, not just a new country or a new part of the world. If I move from one city to the next, all of my security logins are reset, and they have to send me emails with security codes so that I can verify, So as soon as I move to a new city, for me just to get into my password manager in order to get my password to log into Facebook or something like that, I mean, it's a 10-15 minute operation just to log into Facebook, right? It's crazy. And Facebook is one of the worst ones I find. They've added so many weird systems and layers to Facebook. I don't even know how Facebook works anymore, to be honest. When it gets into Facebook Messenger and Facebook Pages, and now they've folded in Instagram and things like that, I just find it all bewildering. So the world of technology marches on and never stops making my life interesting, put it that way. Anyway, my final day, was that my final day? No, that wasn't my final day in Padang, but like dealing with my bank and credit card company, it took the entire day. But that kind of took the wind out of my sails in terms of my mood. So the next day, which was going to be, I think, my final day in Padang, I just wasn't in the mood to go out. Like, what am I going to do? Go hop on my scooter and go find a beautiful mosque to look at, or go down to the beach and chat with fishermen about how they fish. And it's like, I just lost interest, basically. Yeah, I just wasn't in the mood. It was just the whole idea of being overseas suddenly felt more of a burden than a benefit. You know, like so many of these problems that I end up facing start with the idea that I'm not home. I'm not in Canada. Like, even dealing with my credit card company, they wanted to send me security codes to my mobile phone number, but I don't have a Canadian mobile phone number. I don't have one on record with them because I've never had a Canadian mobile phone number. So that's that. And he says, oh, so we can't do that. Well, how about I call you at home? Like, are you at home right now? And I'm like, I was really hoping to avoid even telling them that I was calling them from Indonesia, but he wanted to call me at home. And I says, no, I'm not. I'm nowhere near my home in Canada, because I have a home address and a home phone number, you know, like a landline registered with my bank. I've had that forever. But if he calls that number, I'm not going to be there because I'm here. And he says, well, you know, where are you? And well, I'm currently in Indonesia, right? And it's like, that sets off all kinds of alarm bells and things. And of course, right now, my latest tourist visa is on its way to expiring. So once again, you know, I'm on the clock. I'm stressing out about that and how I have to leave the country and where I'm going to go next. And I'm going to have to go through immigration again when I get to Malaysia. And I'm worried about that. And all of this adds up in your mind, and you're thinking, okay, I do enjoy being in places like this where I am. I've spent most of my life here, so obviously I must enjoy it. But then it's like, oh man, it would be so nice just to be home, you know, where you are doing things that companies and banks find normal and expect of you. And then you don't have to deal with all of these things. Anyway, so my mood was not great in terms of, you know, exploring more of Sumatra. So I decided to just hop on the scooter and ride back to Padang. And this, in my mind, is the first stage of me leaving Sumatra. So I pretty much, in my mind, I've wrapped up my Sumatran experience. Mainly because I have to get back to Dumai on the coast. And then at Dumai, I'll put my bike on a ferry and then take the ferry to Malaysia. And in order to ride my bike back to Dumai, at my pace, you know, I'll end up riding 50 or 60 kilometers per day. It's very, very hilly. You know, it's a difficult ride. So it's not like I'm going to be covering, you know, 150 kilometers a day or anything. I've plotted out my basic route already, and it's about 60 kilometers per day. So to travel, you know, that distance, including a day here to just rest, like 2 rest days along the way, something like that, it's going to take 10 or 11 days. So basically, I have to leave now. And I don't find that to be a hardship. I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. I haven't decided 100% that I'm going to ride my bike back to Dumai. There's a chance that I will just put it on a bus. But the way my mood is and the way I'm feeling, I can feel myself drifting towards riding my bike. It feels right to me. I want to be on the bike. I want to be just spending each day pedaling out there in the physical world and just having a physical challenge to deal with rather than a mental challenge. So I think I will be riding my bike. But of course, there is the chance that, because I had trouble with my knees recently, and my knees may not be able to do it. From here to Payakumbuh is a very easy day. Well, nothing is easy in Sumatra, but it's a relatively easy day, and it's very near to where I am. So it's only like 35 kilometers to get to Payakumbuh. I'll spend the first night there, and a small distance like that on your first day is always a good idea, because you need time in the morning to get fully packed up and things. It's a slow. The very first morning you leave usually takes longer. No matter how much you prepare, it's still going to take longer. So I'll get to Payakumbuh. That should be fine. It's all mostly downhill. But then from there is the day number 2 is by far the steepest, hardest day, because that's when I got to climb up to the very top of the hills. And then on the other side, I start going down. But the entire way, it's going to be up and down, up and down. So it's going to be a lot of physical effort to ride that distance. I did it, coming here, so I know what the road conditions are with the truck traffic and the steepness of the grades. So it's not going to be easy. So there's a chance my knees will just give out in the first couple of days, and I won't even be able to cycle. And then I'll deal with that. If that happens, we shall see what happens. But again, that's assuming I do start cycling. I haven't committed to that fully. I'm still just sort of thinking about it. So even when I rode my scooter from Hainan back here to Padang, again, I didn't shoot any video of that day. I'd already ridden that coastal highway or the coastal road to get to Hainan, so I knew it was beautiful. I knew it was an amazing road, and I was looking forward to doing it again and seeing all of the ocean scenery, the coast and the hills and the blue water and the islands. I wanted to see all that again, but coming from the other direction, I knew it would be wonderful. But I didn't think there was any point to recording the day on video. Who knows how long it's going to take me to even get around to editing the video that I shot riding to Hainan on that road. So it's not like I want to film another bunch of hours of video coming back on the same road. So basically I didn't even bring out my cameras. I had them all packed away, and I just spent the whole day, or the whole morning really, on the scooter, just riding. No YouTube, nothing like that at all. And I think I took one picture with my phone the entire day, and then I just enjoyed the day, just absorbed the beautiful scenery, the fun of being on the road, on the scooter. Yeah, it was really nice. And I had booked this room in advance, and I did that just before I told my bank about the credit card fraud, because I knew the instant I told them, they were going to cancel my card, and then I wouldn't be able to book hotel rooms on Agoda and pay for them in advance anymore. So just before, I was actually on hold with my bank, waiting for them to come online when I thought about this, and I thought, oh. So I was sitting there, with one phone here, listening to the hold music, and then I had another phone out, and I was on Agoda, and then I booked this room here. Really nice place, low budget place. It's called, what is it called? I've forgotten where I'm staying. I shouldn't. Oh, Wisma Mutiara. And I knew about this place. I tried to stay here before, like when I first came from Bukit Tinggi down here, I was looking for a place to stay. This was one of the front runners. And in the end, I stayed somewhere else. I stayed at the Wisma Rumah Kita. It's just up the street. The Rumah Kita and the Mutiara are on the same street. I'm in the same neighborhood, which is nice too. But for some reason, something went wrong. I wasn't able to book this place, or I can't remember. Might have been something to do with the reviews. Maybe I saw something negative about this place that put up a red flag for me. I can't remember. But I ended up at the other place. But so far, based on my experience, I should have come here. It's so much better. Based on the original amount that I paid, this is a little bit more expensive, but not by much. My original price at the Rumah Kita was 115,000 rupiah per night. And then this place, when I booked it this time, was about 150,000. Since then, the online prices at the Rumah Kita have gone up to 200,000, which I have no idea why. On Agoda, they suddenly raised their prices, went from like 100,000 to 200,000. And 200,000 is way too much for that room at a hostel like that, because it's just a tiny cubicle. You know, it's almost like a capsule hotel. The rooms are so small, no private bathroom. You know, it's a nice place. For me, I liked it there. It's very convenient the way I live my life. But this room at Wisma Mutiara, I'm just calculating in my head, has to be 3 times the size, maybe even more. It's a big room, high ceilings, beautiful light blue paint on the walls, I guess, very bright yellow trim, bright light bulb. It's an older building, but well maintained, like nice wooden doors with, you know, a window above the door. Lots of furniture. I've got a nice desk over there, a nice desk over here, a nice chair, clothing area there, like a wardrobe, an open wardrobe, which I really like. You get a lot of hotels still these days, like old budget hotels will still have like one of those old style wardrobes with doors that close and then drawers that pull out. And nobody ever uses them. They're completely useless pieces of furniture, because who would use them? Even like the doors themselves barely open anymore. When you do open them, the interior hasn't been touched for decades, probably. Full of garbage. People just throw things in there and it's left to rot, full of dirt. There's, you know, mouse droppings, rat droppings, spiders. So they're just totally useless pieces of furniture. I don't know why anybody has them anymore. But this is like a wardrobe, but with an open front, and just has a nice white shelf on the bottom. It's very deep, and then it has a metal bar, aluminum bar across the top, you know, where you can hang a towel, or if you had hangers, you could hang your clothes and you put your suitcase in there. Anyway, it's a wonderful room. Wi-Fi is fast, air conditioning is good. There's no private bathroom. At this price range in Padang, you don't get your own bathroom, so it's a shared bathroom across the hall. And I think for a lot of people, like a tourist on a holiday, they wouldn't be happy here because that bathroom is pretty grim. I was in there late the other night, like almost like early morning, 1 o'clock in the morning or something, and something happened to the airflow, so that the air was coming up from the sewer rather than the other way around. And oh, your eyes are just watering from the smell in there. It was just brutal. Luckily, that only happened one time. But it's dirty and broken down. And for the average person on a holiday, they wouldn't be happy with the bathroom like that. Me, no problem. It's fine with me. And they have big open areas, like big common areas with tables. I think there's a kitchen you could use if you wanted to cook. They have a hot and cold water dispenser. They have a front porch. They have a front porch out there with furniture on it. When I showed up on my scooter, there were 2 older men sitting out there, like Indonesian men, and they're just sort of relaxing. And when I pull up on my scooter, they were all like, hey, you know, asking me they spoke a little bit of English. And as they said to me, like, hey, we're out here all the time, you know, so if you're in the mood, just come join us. We'll hang out on the porch, you know. And they even have an actual lobby, hotel lobby, with a front desk. And there was a staff member kind of standing at attention behind the desk. And then check-in was simple as could be. I showed him my Agoda booking on my phone, handed him my passport. He wrote out an official receipt and filled it all in. It was just, perfect. And they have a big parking area, and the parking for the scooters is around back, hidden from the street, and they have a wall going around the entire property, and I think they close the gate at night. Could not, for a low budget accommodation, love it. Yeah. So as I said, if you're here on a holiday and you're looking for luxury, no, this would not be for you. But if you're traveling and you're on a lower budget, man, this is like a classic low budget hotel. It's so nice. Yeah, I really enjoy it here. I'm also really enjoying the more standard hotel experience, where it's a business. You pay for this room by the night, and in that time, this room is your home. And the guy at the front desk, they're staff, right? They're paid by the hour or by the shift to be there. It's not their house. And they don't care what you're doing. As long as you're being a normal guest and you're not, bothering other guests, as long as you're not being disruptive, they don't care what you do. Like when you go in and out, nobody wants to know where I'm going and why I'm going, and nobody wants to know what I had for lunch and whether I've had lunch and what's in my bag and what's this. Like, they don't care. You just go out the door and make eye contact. Good morning, salamat pagi. And then they say salamat pagi, and you go out and do whatever you want to do, and then you come back later in the day and salamat, I like that. I like the anonymity. And he's not going to, whoever's at the front desk is not going to come knocking on my door and asking me weird questions and things. And I bring all this up, of course, because my experience at the homestay in Panang was not really to my liking, the Bumimi homestay. Again, I can see a lot of people really liking it because, especially if you're brand new in Indonesia and you're interested in meeting everybody and spending time with a lot of people and talking to everyone, because you could, if you wanted to, become like a member of the family. A number of times they told me, the kitchen, come down, boil some water and make coffee, do, whatever you like. And it is their house. It's where they live. A family lives in the house and they rent rooms up on the top floor. It's set up like a hotel to a certain extent, but it is a classic homestay. And that could be good, but there was one man in the house who, for whatever reason, just followed me around, and it just got to be a little bit annoying. And I'm still puzzled. I think every time he came up to me, I think he was asking me whether I had taken a shower or not. And maybe this was his way of expressing concern for a guest or something. At first I thought he was saying money all the time. It just happened all the time. Like, money, money, money. And he came up, my room was on the second floor, and then I would leave my room and he would be standing there outside my door and he'd look at me and money, 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 money. And I thought, why are you always asking me for money? I've paid for the room, stop asking me for money. But I think he was saying mandi. Have you gone to the bathroom yet? Have you used the facilities? Have you taken a shower? Mandi, mandi. And then there came a knock on my door, knock, 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 knock. And I'm like, I've got my computer on my lap. I've got hard drives plugged in. I've got cameras everywhere. And I've got to dismantle everything, put it to the side, put on a shirt and go to the door, unlock the door, open it. And he's standing there and he's like, mandi, mandi, mandi. Like, are you asking me, do I want to take a shower now? Are you asking me, have I taken a shower this morning? Why are you so interested in whether or not I take a shower or use the bathroom? Anyway, then I would go in to take a shower or something, which I would do. Well, the irony is I shower constantly because, Indonesia is a tropical country and I sweat to death. And then every time I come in from outside, the first thing I do is go into the bathroom and whoosh, bucket bath. I have to cool down every time I come back, and I cool down before I go out. Like, I take bucket baths all day long. If they're anywhere else in the house, they must have thought I was Aquaman or something. It's like, does this guy ever get out of the bathroom? Because I'm up there, dumping water on my head all day long, multiple times a day. So they must know. But then, so there I was. I came out midday, taking a shower. And I come out, and there he is standing right outside the bathroom door. Mandi? Mandi? He's like, well, yeah, why? Why are you always asking me this question? Yes, I just took a shower. And then the woman who was there did the same thing too. One morning, I think the very first morning I came out, and I just came out of the bathroom, and the man was standing there in the hallway. Mandi? Mandi? Yeah. So I was going back to my room, and a woman was there, sweeping near the stairs. She was very nice, very friendly, spoke some English, and then she asked me, Mandi, you Mandi? And I was like, yeah. And then packing up at the end, it got to the point where I was trying to leave the house without being seen, like a spy or something, because I knew if the man saw me, he would just follow me around and he would be asking me things. I've got my knapsack and he's pointing at it and asking questions about it, like, what's in the bag? Like, what's in there? What is that? Can I see? And he would just follow me everywhere I went. And I knew when I was leaving, like checking out in the morning, I make several trips because, you know, I like to go down to the scooter, pull it out of the garage because it was kept inside a garage partially. And I would pull it out, put it into a convenient spot, put it up on its big kickstand, check I've got enough gas, check the tires, look it over, just to make sure everything is okay, getting ready for the day. So I do that, then I go back up to my room, and then I bring down my main luggage, and I put that on the bag, and I strap it all down with bungee cords and everything. But I leave my knapsack in my room, locked up. I don't bring everything down at once, because by the time I finish loading up the scooter and strapping down my big bag, and then I'm hot and sweaty again. So what I like to do is get everything ready. Then I go back up to my room, look under the bed, look at all the outlets, look at the hooks, if there are hooks, and just make sure I haven't left everything behind. I always love to leave rooms as nice as I can. So once I'm fully packed, I kind of make the bed. I put all the pillows where they were when I showed up. I fold the sheets if there is a sheet in the room, or the blanket. And I usually move furniture around when I move into a room to make it more convenient for me. Like I've got a little coffee table over here, and I've got the chair over there because I've got the camera mounted on its tripod on the chair. I move everything to make it convenient for me. But then when I check out, the morning I check out, I move all the furniture back. So I make everything as perfect as I can make it. I never leave garbage behind. I always gather up all my own garbage and I bring it out with me and dispose of it somewhere else. That's a bit excessive, I know, but it's just, I don't know, I don't like leaving anything in the room. So I make several trips as I'm getting ready, and then when I'm just the last second, I'm ready to go, the next thing I'm gonna do, all I have to do is hop on the scooter and turn the ignition and go. That's when I take one last shower. And I'll take a shower. And when I do that, I already have my street clothing on. I'm dressed for the day. I'm not wearing my bedroom shorts and t-shirt, anything like that. So yeah, I just go into the bathroom, I take off all of my clothing that I'm gonna wear that day, and then just dump water on my head, gets nice, I'm soaking wet, and I just pull on my clothing, and my clothing gets nice and damp because of all the water that's on my body. And then, of course, when I get on the scooter and I start riding, all that dampness, keeps me nice and cool, with the wind hitting me and drying me off for the first little while. So I've got my little routine for when I check out of a hotel. And in a hotel like this, it's not an issue. You just go in and out as many times as you like, and the guy sees you packing up and getting ready to go, and then when you're done, you drop off the key, thank them, and you're on the road. But at the homestay, I knew that if this man saw me getting ready to leave in the morning like that, it was not going to be a very easy thing to do. And it turned out the very first time I went down, I could hear his voice. I think he was talking to another man in the living room of their house. And I was trying to sneak out the door and trying to sneak over to the scooter, but nah, you're not going to get away that easily. And he spotted me, and then he comes running out, and then he just followed me from that point on every time I went up or down. He would go up the stairs right behind me. I'm heading up the stairs, and he's walking up the stairs right behind me, and I know I'm going to be doing something that he won't understand, And I put my bag on the scooter, and he's like looking at the bag and pointing at it. What? And I was thinking, what? Are you worried that I'm stealing from your house or something? Is that why you're asking me all the time about all my bags? Trust me, I'm not taking anything. You can go check the room. Everything is still there. And so then I go up, and I don't know what he's expecting me to do or what he's expecting to do, but I'm not ready to go yet, right? So I need to go back into my room, close the door, and I'm rearranging the room and cleaning it and checking and folding up the sheets and doing last minute things. And then I come out of the room, and then he's like ready to go. He's still standing there waiting for me because he wants to go with me as I go back down to the scooter. And I'm like, I'm not leaving yet. I'm still preparing, right? So then, I close the door and I lock it. And I think he's just worried about the hotel key or something, or who knows what he's worried about. And then he thinks I'm going to go down, but then I just go into the bathroom and I do, my last shower thing, because I was so hot and sweaty. And because he'd been following me for so much, I was kind of stressed out a little bit. I was like more hot and sweaty than normal because of this kind of the stress of the situation. So then I go in there, I take my shower, I come back out, and he's still standing there. And then I felt like under all this pressure, and then I go back into my room, and then I can grab my knapsack and check the room over one last time and go. And then he follows me all the way downstairs, and then I didn't really give him the key because he didn't seem that focused. I think anything you gave him, he was going to lose. He didn't seem to be deeply involved in the routines of the homestay. So my plan was just to leave. There was no place to put the key. Again, that's what I don't like about these homestays. They're so disorganized. There's no systems of any kind. It's not like, a regular hotel. If there's no one at the front desk, they often have a box, drop your key, into this box sort of thing. If not, I can put it on the desk. But at this homestay, it's just a house. And I was like, okay, now what do I do with the key? And then I would just put it on the table, like in the dining room table, so it's clearly visible. So yeah, I don't like that atmosphere. So I was not very happy at this homestay, mainly because of this man. I mean, the facilities were fine, the room was fine, the house was fine. Everything was okay, but somehow being in somebody's house and having the family in your business so much, and this man, he wanted to be in my business. Yeah, it just became annoying after a while. So I was kind of happy to leave. I even thought about extending my stay in Panang a little bit, but I wouldn't. One of the reasons I decided against it was, I'm just done with this place overall. I got to move on. And then came another drama, and this drama actually went on for the whole week, and very annoying because it's such a trivial thing. It's so stupid, but at the same time, these things are real. At this homestay, they have a cooler in the lobby. Well, it's not a lobby, in the dining room of the house. They actually installed a cooler with a glass door, and it's full of cold drinks for guests like me. I can just take orange juice or cold coffee or bottles of cold water. Very nice service, and I wish more guest houses would do this. And I tried to, when I first showed up, I tried to find out several times, well, how does this work? Like, how much do the drinks cost? How do I pay for them? And no matter how many times I asked, nobody would tell me anything. So there's no prices listed. There was no notebook where you write down what you take. There was no box where you put money in the box. There was nothing. And eventually I just came up, I spoke to the woman about it, and I showed everybody what I was doing, that, okay, I've got a little notebook, and I wrote my name and my room number at the top of the page, underlined it, and then I started making a list, like orange juice, 1, 2, like if I take a bottle of orange juice, I make a note on this list, and this is how I'm keeping track of the things that I've taken. And then I can pay at the end of my stay. And everybody seemed fine with that. So that's what I was doing. I didn't like it because it just felt weird. But now, the day before, I wanted to get this taken care of. I don't like having these details hanging over my head. the day I check out. I like to get everything done the day before. So I go looking for someone with my sheet, you know, like, can anybody total this up for me and I can pay you now, and then we're done. And in the morning, I won't forget, you won't forget, and there won't be any problem about, oh, I don't have the correct change. And, you know, I don't like all these hassles. So I want to get it done the day before. So I go out looking for someone, and there's almost never anybody in the house. So that's hard to do. But then there happened to be another man there who was part of the family of this house. He spoke English. And so I said, oh, excellent, I can talk to him. So I went up to him and says, oh yeah, I'm checking out tomorrow morning, and here's everything that I've had to drink. You know, can you tell me how much it is, and then I can pay you? And he's like, no, I don't know how to do that. I don't know anything about that. And he wouldn't do anything for me. He disappeared, and there was nobody else that night. The woman who was the only, she seemed to be the one mainly in charge of the place. She was never around. I saw her one time, I think, maybe twice, but she was never there. And again, it's not like a regular hotel where there's a front desk. You can't go up there and ding the bell, you know, ding, 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 you know, to ask a question or do anything. It's somebody's house. So anyway, I wasn't able to take care of it. And then in the morning, I thought, okay, I can deal with it now. But the old man who was, you know, who wanted to take showers with me, apparently, he was there and he was following me everywhere, but he knows nothing about this. He wouldn't be able to do anything. So what I did, because the very first time I was there and I spoke to the woman about the cooler, I was asking her how much the drinks are, and then she said, well, that orange juice is 5,000, so it's like 5,000 for the drinks. I said, okay, I'll base things off of that. And then, so what I did in the morning was I took the piece of paper, you know, torn out of my notebook with my list, and I left it on the table with the key, and I totaled up the amount, and I left the money on the table. That's all I could do. I mean, I'd worked so hard trying to, I wanted to pay for my drinks so badly. I tried so many times. There's like the whole week I was consumed with this thought of how do I pay for these drinks? And I tried so hard to do it. And I mean, I did everything I could possibly do. And then I left. And then, I think, was it last night? No, the night before last, I was already here. And I looked at one of the phones sitting beside me on the bed during the night. And there was an email from Agoda, and it was from the Bumimi Homestay. They sent me a message through the Agoda system. And it said in kind of very abrupt English, you didn't pay water. Totally, and they gave an amount. Can you bank transfer? And I was like, oh, come on. It's like, this annoyed me beyond words. After all of that, after leaving the money, after so many attempts to pay, now that I had finally left, suddenly they're so organized that they can send me an email demanding money, saying I didn't pay, and saying I have to send them money by bank transfer. It's like, okay, this is this is not a good situation. This annoyed me so much. And the funny thing, of course, is the amount of money we're talking about was like $3, like 50,000 rupiah, because the amount I came up with was less than 50,000 rupiah, because I didn't have a lot, I had a couple of drinks. So I left more than enough money to cover it. And now they were asking for an amount, it was like below 50,000, like $3 US, 45,000 rupiah, $3. And they want me to go to a bank and send them a wire transfer for that amount of money or something. But even then, the message annoyed me, because they're asking for the money, but there was no, like, first of all, they accused me of not paying. You didn't pay. It's like, okay, no, I did pay. And you know, maybe someone took the money off the table, but even so, I tried to pay over and over and over again, but none of you would let me pay. You just kept putting me off and putting me off. So What are you going to do? And then now they say bank transfer. But even if I do that, go to a bank and do a bank transfer, like what, do I need a bank account to do that? Maybe, I don't know. But now they have to send me their bank account details. So now I'm going to have to send them another email saying, oh, whatever, sorry about that. I'm sorry for the misunderstanding. Now they have to send me, we're going to have to get into this long email exchange before I can even go to the bank. Anyway, the whole thing was like, no, this is very annoying. And I did write back to them and I said, well, I'm not going to fight with anybody over $3, obviously. But at the same time, I wanted to tell them that they need to clean up their system a little bit. And I said, sure, no problem, about sending them money, send me the details and I'll take care of it. However, and I explained, I tried to pay many times while I was there. I spoke to 3 different people trying to give money for these drinks, and nobody would help me out. And I left money on the table when I left. I kept my own itemized list. I did all of these things, and I had to do all these things because you don't have a system in place. So my suggestion is to improve your customer service, and if you're going to offer drinks to your guests, which is a nice thing to do, come up with some kind of a system to avoid this problem in the future. And who knows what they'll make of my message. We will find out. But yeah, so I was very happy to leave the homestay and be back in a hotel where presumably these sorts of issues are not. So far, yeah, I take all kinds of showers and nobody has ever asked me yet whether I've taken a shower yet today. No one here has bothered me about this. Yeah, pretty funny stuff. From this point, I'm imagining that things are going to move pretty quickly because today is my last day here. I'm going to spend the day just editing video. And tonight is my last night at this hotel. I was thinking about extending my stay a little bit, but I still have the scooter here. And I'm not using it right now because I'm just sitting editing videos all day. I'm not actually going out on any trips. I use it, of course. I hop on to go run errands in the city, but I don't need it to do that. I would normally just walk everywhere. So I'm basically paying a daily rental fee for the scooter right now, even though I'm not using it. So even if I decided I love this hotel, I'd love to stay here for 3 or 4 nights more, but I'd end up paying, hundreds of thousands of rupiah for a scooter just to sit in the parking lot doing nothing. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. So I think I'm going to stick to my original plan, and tomorrow morning I'll be riding back to the Bukittinggi area, drop off the scooter. Today I have to get money to pay for the scooter rental, of course. I paid for a certain amount of time in advance when I first rented the scooter, but I've kept it for pretty much a month, and now I need more money to cover the month that I've had it. So I have to that could be an adventure today, because I haven't tried to use ATMs in Sumatra for a long time because I had so much trouble in the past. I didn't want to deal with it anymore. So what I've been doing on these trips here, while I'm in Malaysia, I've been withdrawing money in Malaysia from the ATM and sort of amassing the amount of money I'll need to cover my time in Sumatra, all in Malaysian ringgit. And then I converted the Malaysian ringgit to Indonesian rupiah. So I came here with all the money I would need for the 2 months already in advance, in Indonesian rupiah. So I don't actually have to withdraw money from ATMs here because that's such a hassle. They restrict you to a very, very small amount of money, and most of the banks here won't accept my credit card. You got to go from bank to bank to bank to finally find one that'll work. So anyway, I don't do that, but I had enough money for the 2 months, but the renting the scooter was an unexpected expense. So yeah, I need more money than I have with me. So today I have to go to an ATM and try to get some money so that I can pay for the scooter rental. that could be my technology adventure for today. Whew. I do have other options. I have US dollars in cash, and I have a bunch of Malaysian ringgit with me as well. So even if I can't get money from the ATM, I can just, maybe the guy would be happy to accept, US dollars for payment, or I can just exchange the dollars for rupiah. So even if the ATM doesn't work, I'm not stuck, but I'd prefer to keep the cash I have and get rupiah from the ATM. We'll see how that works out today. And then tomorrow morning, ride back to Bukit Tinggi. And then as far as I know, I'm ready to go. I have no interest in staying in the village longer. I have no interest in, there's tons of things I could still do in the Bukit Tinggi area, but I just feel like it's time to go. And part of it is also my own YouTube inefficiency, I guess. I still haven't figured out a system, I guess, for properly documenting the things I'm doing on video and editing those videos. I just, I guess I shoot too much video and I take too long to edit it, so I can't keep up. So even if I'm doing new things in the Bukit Tinggi area, things that would be of interest for a YouTube video, I don't want to shoot any more video because I've got a backlog of stuff I need to deal with. So it's not like I want to go to Bukit Tinggi and go to because there's a bunch of markets there I haven't explored. There's neighborhoods I haven't explored. There's, regions all around Bukit Tinggi I could check out. And I have a personal interest. I'd like to do all those things, but I don't want to shoot more video of that. I don't know how I'd ever be able to deal with it. So right now in my mind, I'm thinking tomorrow morning, scooter to the village. I'll spend one day in the village just packing up my bike, getting everything ready. And then the morning after that, just cycle to Payakumbuh and then, day by day, work my way back to Dumai. So in my mind, I'm sort of on my way to Dumai and the ferry waiting for me. Hopefully it all works out. We'll see how it goes. There is a YouTuber I've mentioned, Nick K, and he's embarked on a cycling trip on Sumatra, and I don't think he's posted any travel videos yet. He's got a couple of videos from his arrival. Yeah, he rode his bike inside the city of Jakarta, just cycling around some local neighborhoods. But that was 4 days ago, and he hasn't posted a video since then. I'm curious to see how his cycling turns out. I get the impression he's of a tougher breed than I am, so he'll sail through Java with no issues at all. We shall see. Yeah, his videos are kind of interesting because he is traveling with his girlfriend. And one thing I noticed is that for whatever reason, his girlfriend is a little bit of a free spirit. So she wears very revealing clothing. And when she was in Taiwan in particular, she was like wearing this clothing that was also very loose and very revealing, put it that way. Unusually so. I mean, you might see someone dressed like that at the beach or something, if you go to a Western style beach, where there's lots of bikinis and things like that. Okay, that's the scene. But you don't often see someone like that just out in public walking around the streets of Taipei or Taiwan, these places. So she stands out. And then I heard Nick talk about his plans with his girlfriend to go cycling in Indonesia. And Indonesia is a relatively conservative place. And I was wondering, how is she going to dress when she gets to Indonesia? Is she going to be, dressed in quite that fashion? It would seem like it would land them in trouble if she did. And so far, she sort of struck a middle path. She's not wearing as revealing clothing as she did in Taiwan, but she is like tight, high shorts, almost like a bikini bottom in a way, and then sort of a very tight halter top kind of, very, for Indonesia, she's quite an unusual sight, to see her out in the streets and riding her bike down the road. And so I do wonder what Indonesians think, the women in particular, the way that they're dressed, most of them, covered head to toe and, with a hijab and everything. And then there's this woman going by on a bicycle. And he's like, what? So I'm curious how that is going to turn out for them as they ride around Java. And Itchy Boots posted another video. She basically is announcing a break. The video is called I Am Leaving West Africa, and then on the thumbnail it says I'm out, which, with my sensitivity to clickbait, strikes me as clickbait again, because I'm out in English is like it's a very specific phrase where you're frustrated, you're done with this whole thing. Like, all right, I'm done, I'm out. Like they're so upset and they're so stressed out that they're quitting, basically, and they're quitting kind of in a bad mental state. All right, I'm out. I can't deal with this anymore. I'm out, and I'm leaving West Africa. So it does make you think, oh, she's breaking down. Something terrible happened. She's quitting, but of course that's not the situation at all. It's just that because of the rainy season, because of difficulty getting a visa for Nigeria, because of she's constantly taking malarial medicine, which is, as I know from experience, is very powerful medicine. And if you take that for a long time, it can really mess up your body and even have an effect on your mind. It's, you don't want to take that for very long. And she's been on that malarial medication for months now. And she has other commitments, other opportunities, things she can do. So while she deals with getting a Nigerian visa, waiting for the rains to stop, she figured, okay, why don't I take a break? And she's basically, I assume, going to fly back to Europe, leave her motorcycle in the country she's in now in West Africa, fly back to Europe for a couple of months, 3 months, 4 months, I don't know how long, do a bunch of other things, stop taking the malarial medicine, get the next visas that she needs, and then she'll come back and continue her journey. But of course, as a video title, that's a little bit complicated, or not quite as exciting, as I'm out. No, she's just taking a break. She's has things to deal with and is going to go do something else for a while. She's going to come back and pick up her journey, once the rainy season has ended and once she has all the necessary stamps in her passport. I guess it's been a while since I've given a pop culture update, so maybe very quickly I'll do that. I've been watching a couple of interesting things. There's an animated show called Strange Planet, which is kind of new, has a familiar name attached. I guess it's based on a web comic by Nathan W. Pyle, and he co-created the series with Dan Harmon. And it's brand new, just coming out right now, and it's interesting. I like anything that's different these days because I've seen so many television shows and movies in my life. I do get to the point where I feel like I've seen it all. And then when I see, even if something is not particularly good, as long as it's new and different, try something new, I find it interesting. And Strange Planet is animated, as I said. And it's kind of based on a gimmick, which may or may not work over the long haul. Like, I think it works very well as a web comic. I can see it being very good. Even as a cartoon strip, it would be very amusing. But so far, like, the characters themselves are not that distinct. I mean, if you get something like, Rick and Morty or The Simpsons or anything like that, the stories are engaging and that sort of thing, but the series is also supported by the characters. Like, the characters so well, Rick and Morty, and then, Homer and Bart and Marge and Lisa, But in Strange Planet, at this point, I couldn't even tell you, because they all look the same. They're just basically blue blobs. They look like aliens, essentially, with no features at all. And they distinguish one from the other with some accessories like glasses or earrings or a scarf or something. But at this point, I couldn't tell you even if the show even has regular characters, or is it just like brand new characters every week? I couldn't tell you right now. So it doesn't really have that going for it. You can't really latch onto the show and enjoy it because you're interested in the characters, because as far as I can tell, it doesn't really have any characters. It's really based on a gimmick and an idea of this world where it's like a mirror image of our world, but they describe everything literally. Like, it's not couched in all kinds of social constructs and norms. They just, in the show, they just call things. For example, it has a very unique language for nouns. Like for coffee, they call jitter juice, because, caffeine and coffee, makes you jittery. So they called it jitter juice. And then I remember the very first episode was very good, I thought, but it was based on flight attendants. And then flight attendants, their job is to provide comfort, and then they give pillows to passengers to comfort them, but they call pillows comfort squares. And parents are called like life givers. It's like every item in our lives and every event in our lives, rather than just giving it a random name in the show, they name it based on its function. And that I find that quite interesting and quite amusing. You try and anticipate what they're going to call all these different things, and it's always interesting to see what they come up with. And you end up seeing our own life and our own world in a new way, because you're defining things based on their function. And quite often, we don't think about the function of things. Like, we just sort of take things for granted. It's like, oh, could I have a pillow? Oh, you've got a pillow. But no, a pillow is a comfort square. And it's like, oh yeah, actually, yeah, pillows just sort of give you comfort, whether you put it back here or, you kind of hug them or whatever you do. And if you're on a flight and there's some turbulence, they hand out comfort squares so people that can hold on to the pillow and stuff. But anyway, I do find it interesting. Every time there's a new episode available, I'm very excited. I watch it right away because of the imagination. And I want to learn more about this world and see where it goes. So that is Strange Planet. I'm still watching the sci-fi series Foundation. I was very impressed with large parts of the first season. Second season, it feels like it's losing its narrative drive, because obviously, if you know the story of the books of Foundation, it covers a vast amount of space and time, just extending over a great, like, millennia of time. So it's dealing with a lot of big ideas and then jumping forward in time a lot. And, it's the crumbling of an empire. And I don't know, it's a hard story to tell. And the second season seems to be describing a lot of exposition. There's so much you have to understand about what is going on that the story itself isn't pulling me into it anymore. And in particular, I found, even in the first season, the Empire, it's based on clones. So there was the original emperor of the galaxy, he's the leader of the entire empire, and what he decided to do was clone himself. So rather than getting a new leader, it would still be him, but he cloned himself 3 times. So the emperor was in fact the same person, but in 3 different bodies: a young man, a middle-aged man, and an older man, and they're ruling together. And then as they go through life, when one of them dies, they just come up with a new clone. And that way the empire can continue forever with the same man, in theory, leading the empire, because they just keep cloning the same people over and over again. And the power that they have is mind-bending. And the power as expressed through their technology is just mind-bending. And in the first season, whenever they were focused on the story of the empire, the Cleons, the clones, I was all in. I just loved that. And as soon as they left that story and went to some other planet, I lost interest. I want to get back to the empire. It was always the empire. That was the most interesting thing. And the planet, you know, the capital planet of the empire where they lived, that was the world I was interested in, and those were the people I was interested in. And in the second season, they're leaving the empire behind more and more and more, and then concentrating on the stories of all the other characters, and I'm sort of like, I'm not that interested in any of them. I'm still enjoying it. I still love the technology, the way it's portrayed in the show. I think it's astonishing, the power of it, you know, the advanced technology they're using. But I'm not that engaged with the story anymore. And I have a particular problem with the main character, a guy in the show, Harry Seldon. Or Sheldon? Seldon. Harry Seldon. He's the one driving the entire story because, as everyone who knows Foundation knows, he came up with a type of mathematics that can accurately predict what large populations will do. So essentially his mathematics can predict what will happen in the future. And of course, he predicted that the empire is going to crumble. The empire is going to collapse. And of course, the empire didn't like this news, and the empire and Harry Seldon are in a conflict, basically. But Harry Seldon bothers me in terms of the plot, because he has, like, when the show started, he was just a mathematics professor. He was just like a guy at a low-level university somewhere. He happened to be a genius, and he understood mathematics very well, and I got all that, and I was following the story. But then later on, suddenly, he had an incredible amount of wealth and technology at his disposal. And his technology seemed to be even more advanced than anything the empire had. It was magic, practically. So the things that he's able to do just make no sense to me. It's like, how did he do that? How did he build this? How did he come up with all these spaceships and this thing and that thing and the power that it wields? I have no idea where he came up with all the money and the technology to build all these things. He was just a mathematics professor. Anyway, so every time the plot moves forward and we find out that, oh, Harry Seldon has predicted this, and he made sure that this would happen, and he'd have a spaceship over there waiting that would link up here, and he's got this huge monument that does this, and has, you know, it's got this huge monument on a planet that sends out what they call a null field, that nobody can get close to it. Anyone who approaches this thing loses consciousness and collapses. And this thing, this monolith, is so powerful, you wonder, where did that technology come from? How did he build this thing? Anyway, none of that makes any sense to me, and it bothers me all the time that I'm watching this show. Anyway, I'm still enjoying it. Production value is through the roof. Every time they go back to the Empire and the 3 Cleons, I find that very fascinating. And so I'm still engaged, but not as engaged as I was in the past. And it's definitely not a show that has any rewatchability to it. That's something I think about all the time. There are many shows out there that are very good, but they have zero rewatchability. Like, you would never watch it again. Like, you watch it to get the story and you enjoy it, but there's no reason to rewatch it. Like, you already know what happened. But there's a type of show out there, like I guess they're more entertaining. Something like Firefly, for example. There was only one season of Firefly ever, and it's a show that I know quite well. But if I had a copy of Firefly, I could just sit down and rewatch it over and over and over again. I could watch it dozens of times because each episode is so entertaining. Even though I know exactly what's going to happen next, it doesn't matter. I'll still watch the show. Foundation, it's very high quality. The first season is exceptional, but I'll never watch it again because I already know what's going to happen. I would have no patience for it. Yeah, interesting. So rewatchability is an interesting way to think about TV shows. And the last one I'll talk about maybe is a new show called Mrs. Davis. And it's early yet. I've only watched a couple of episodes, and I don't know how it's going to turn out. It hooked me at the beginning because it was so unusual, and it is all about AI and technology. We're in a world where a single AI has taken over everything with the promise of making everybody's lives better. And to be honest, I don't really have any idea what is going on yet. The show opened with a situation and characters that kind of have disappeared. I thought, oh, that must be the main character, but if he is the main character, he hasn't reappeared. We're not following his story. But then we switch to somebody else. It's basically about a nun. It's unusual. It's fun and it's different. But just now, I discovered something that makes me very nervous. And it turns out, I just looked up the listing on Wikipedia, and it turns out it was created by Tara Hernandez and Damon Lindelof. And as soon as I saw that name, my heart sank. I said, oh no, the dreaded, the horrible, the awful Damon Lindelof. Yeah, I just do not like that guy at all. He's incredibly successful and popular for, writing TV shows and movies, but I don't like anything he does because nothing he creates makes any sense. He doesn't worry about anything making any sense. He just makes a whole bunch of crazy stuff happen that makes you interested because you want to know why. It's like, oh, what's the meaning of this? And how does that connect to this? And what's the meaning of that? And why is this happening? And you watch the show because he's hooked you with all these really crazy things. And then you get to the end of the show and none of it meant anything. Like he had no idea what he was doing. He had no goal in mind for the show. Wasn't going anywhere. There was no answer to any of the questions. No solutions to the mysteries, and the whole thing was a giant con, basically. He just tricked you, and he does that over and over again. And now I'm worried that everything in this show, in Mrs. Davis, that I find kind of intriguing, and I want to know more because he's involved. By the end, you get to the end of the show, none of it will mean anything at all. It's just going to just dwindle away, and there's going to be no explanation for anything. But the acting is strong. It's funny. It's kind of entertaining. So I'll stick with it and then see where it goes. But yeah, that is Mrs. Davis. And I do find myself, of course, along with everybody, very interested in AIs right now. And the show is based on an AI, so it's very topical. And I've recently been listening to a new podcast, new to me, called Decoder. And it's quite good. It's Patel, Nayan Patel, I believe, is the host, and he interviews the CEOs of corporations, and he's very good at it. They're fascinating interviews, and lately he's been focusing on a lot of technology issues. So he's been interviewing the CEOs of Microsoft and Google and other corporations that are all heavily involved in AI, and I find that quite interesting. And I just started a new one this morning from Decoder, where he's interviewing, who is he interviewing? Jamaica Green Aaron from a company called Okta. And as he writes in the notes, Okta is a big company, a Wall Street SaaS darling. I don't know what SaaS is. And he says, for most of us, it's the thing we have to log into 50 times a week just to get any work done. But I've never heard of it. Never heard of Okta. Might be one of these American things. Okta, I guess it's a company that deals with identity and login systems and security. And at the very beginning of the interview, he asks this woman, about Okta and how does she view the company. And then she gave this long answer, and I have no idea what she said. I was like, what? What is that? What does any of that mean? But it is kind of interesting. Okta. Again, it must be an American thing. I listen to a lot of these podcasts, and they're obsessed with Twitter and with iPhones and Okta and all these things that seem to be so central to the American way of life. And I don't know if they fully understand that in large parts of the world, none of that means anything to anybody. Twitter, I don't think of Twitter as having any kind of a presence in Asia. I mean, sure, people know what Twitter is, but I don't use Twitter. I don't know anybody that uses Twitter. Seems to be more of an American thing than anything else. And even iPhones. I mean, the American market is dominated by iPhones, and I'm sure they're popular around the world, but almost everybody I know is more of an Android person. iPhones are, it's almost like in the US and in Canada, the assumption is that smartphone and iPhone are synonymous. I find that all the time with people, like if I'm talking with friends of mine or other people in the US or anywhere, they just assume that iPhones are smartphones. So like, are there any other phones? That seems to be their attitude. They just assume you're using an iPhone as well. It doesn't occur to them that you might not have an iPhone, because doesn't everyone have one? So like, well, no, I've got just Android phones. So Okta might fit into that category. He says everybody knows about Okta and everybody logs into Okta 50 times a week. I've never even heard of it. Certainly never logged into Okta. So anyway, I'm finding the interview interesting, and it's all about it meshes with all the concerns I have, because of it's an identity company talking about security and logging in, and I think they're going to talk a lot about biometrics and how passwords are slowly going to be phased out. That passwords are a thing of the past, and the future will be more and more and more about biometrics. And I can understand that, because I resisted biometrics for a long time. You see it in movies too these days. Biometrics doesn't seem that secure, because you constantly, I mean, these are not real life situations, but you do see in movies where the bad guys kidnap somebody important, and then they take their phone, and then the first thing they do is turn on the phone and then hold it up in front of the face of the man they kidnapped, and beep, they're logged into the phone, because the guy has, facial recognition turned on his phone, which is supposed to be much more secure and much more efficient than passwords. But of course, if the guy didn't have facial recognition, they couldn't get into his phone, because he would have to tell them the password, right? And he's like, well, I'm not going to tell you the password. And then they're stuck. But because, biometrics is based on something physical, here's my phone, it has a fingerprint reader on it. So you could kidnap me and then just grab my thumb and press it on there and get into my phone and get into my bank accounts and email and do whatever you want. Because you have physical control of me, you can control my thumbprint. So biometrics always seemed a little bit suspect that way. But of course, how many of us ever get kidnapped by criminals? It's not something that would ever It's not like your friend is going to tackle you and force you to put your thumb on your phone. It's not something that happens in real life. So me having, fingerprint lock on my phone is very convenient to me because, man, constantly entering passwords, can drive you a bit nuts sometime. Though I do tend to turn off facial recognition. It just feels weird to me. When I was in Malaysia, I was really getting into cashless payments and things like that, e-wallets, and then you constantly have to verify. You go to the store, you scan the QR code, but then you got to verify the payment, right? And you can do that by putting in a code, which is what I do still, because I did set up facial recognition originally, but it felt really weird to be standing in line at Starbucks. And then now, you get the QR code or whatever it is. And then in order to make the e-wallet payment, you got to hold up your phone in front of your face. And then sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. And I don't know, I just didn't like it. I couldn't get used to it. So I still don't use facial recognition, but I do use fingerprints, biometrics. And it does feel secure. Anyway. Yeah, I have to admit that as much as I've read about AI and as many podcasts as I've listened to about it, I still don't really understand it. Stick with me here. I have something very specific in mind when I say I don't understand it. I don't understand if this recent explosion in AI is a result of something new or just scaling up, if you see what I mean. Like, we've had computers for a long time, and computers can do all kinds of interesting things. Computer programs can do all kinds of things. And then, so what is AI? Is it a brand new technology? Or is it like old technology that has just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and more powerful and more powerful? And now it's gotten so powerful that it's not really a computer program anymore. We call it an AI. Or is AI the result of some kind of a breakthrough? Is it a completely new technology based on a discovery that was made at the quantum level or something? Like, I don't really know what AI is. Is it just a bigger, more powerful computer program? Or is it something completely new? Like, why is everybody talking about AI now when 10 years ago they weren't? Is it because there's a big discovery? Or is it just because computers just got more and more and more powerful during that time? And where is the AI? Like, physically, where is it? What is it? Like, could you give me an AI? Could I go to Google and say, okay, give me your AI, and they give you a flash drive? Oh, here's an AI. It's on the flash drive. Or it's on this device. The AI is here. Here's the AI. Or is the AI Skynet? Basically, does it live in the cloud, and it's this artificial intelligence that exists on the internet, and it's spread out over thousands or millions of computer systems? Like, where is the AI? Is it in a room? Is it sitting on one computer? Is it in a server farm? Like, what is it and where is it exactly? I don't really understand AI, so yeah, that's my confession about AI and technology. I don't understand it. All right, well, I have to shut down for this morning, get ready for my day. As I said, I expect things to be happening a lot. Starting today, I've got to go to the bank, find an ATM that'll work, withdraw enough money to pay for the scooter, ride my scooter back, drop it off, pay for it, pack up, get on the bike, and yeah. That seems to be what is happening. We shall see. I may make a snap decision not to ride my bike back to Dumai, but we'll see what I end up doing. At the moment, it feels like that's what I'm going to do. If my body allows me to do that. We shall see. All right? shutting down for this morning, behind the scenes on Planet Doug, and I'll see you in the next video.